Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to make matching Camp Half-Blood t-shirts for you and your doll. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is look up Camp Half-Blood shirt logo or Camp Half-Blood logo and find an image that is to your liking. There's mine. I just used this one, yep, and then I'm just going to save it to my photos, and then I'm going to go over to just a blank Word document and insert the photo and try and make it as big as possible, but don't have it so big where it goes off the page and cuts off. So have it within the page, but just as big as you can within the page. And now you're just going to print that Word document out, just however you print stuff out. And now you're going to, or after that, you're going to do the stencil for your smaller shirt if you're doing that. And I usually just put it to about like 1/6 of the paper. So like right now I'm doing it on like the top left of the paper. And yeah, so once you've done that, then print that out as well. And now I am going to, in order for this to like be more sturdy and be able to be used for more than one time, I'm just going to cover this with packing tape, just so it like plasticizes it a little bit, just covers it with plastic, and it's almost like laminating it. You can probably laminate it if you have a laminator, but I'm just doing it this way. And do the front and the back. And now we're going to cut out the black stuff actually, and sometimes I like using an X-Acto knife for this, but because you don't want to cut through your paper and onto the surface you're working on, I like to cover my surface with I'm just using a thick plastic. So if you're using an X-Acto knife and are a child, make sure to have an adult help you, because they can be kind of dangerous. So yeah, the thick plastic is just covering my work surface, just so I don't scratch the table. So yeah, just cut that. You can use an X-Acto knife, or you can just use regular scissors. I'm going to be using regular scissors for most of the Pegasus, and I think some of the letters too. And as you see, I'm just speeding up the video. I'm going to show you the whole process, just sped up, but it is a little long, so if you want to skip ahead, feel free to if you know what you're doing. Alright, so I'm done with that, and it's all cut out, and I cut out everything. So yeah, now let's get on to making the orange shirt for our doll. So you're going to want to screenshot these patterns, and then I'll show you what to do with those screenshots. So just go into another Word document, and you want to crop your images so you can just see a little bit of the black, and then line up the black with the edges of your paper on your Word document. And this should if you're using the same paper size that I am, this should be just the right size for your patterns. So just do that, line it up, and then print your document. And then after you print your document, then you want to cut them out. Alright, so once you're done cutting out all your paper patterns, then we're going to move on to our fabric and cut the shapes out of our fabric. And I'm using pins, but you don't really have to, but they are really useful. And those are my very weird fabric scissors. So again, if you are a child, you might need help because making a shirt is kind of tricky. So you're just going to want to smooth out your fabric. You could iron it if you want. I didn't iron mine just because it was smooth enough. And you're going to, for the sleeves, I'm going to make 2 of them. So I'm going to fold my fabric in half so I can cut 2 at once. And then lay out my paper pattern and then pin it to my fabric so it stays in place. And then after that, I'm going to cut it out. And just, you don't have to, you can like cut up right to the paper pattern because you don't have to allow any extra. You can allow a little bit of extra just like I'm doing, I guess, so you don't cut into the paper. And do the same thing, but just 1 layer. Just cut out 1 piece of fabric for each of the other pieces. And be patient with it. It's a little slow going, but it'll turn out well if you go slow. And there is the front of the shirt. And now I'm doing both side panels, or I guess the back of the shirt. These we're going to have Velcro. So you can Velcro the shirt up so it's not, you don't have to stretch it over the doll's head or anything because that won't work. So the back will open and we will put a Velcro there so it can open and close with the Velcro and go on your doll easily. So I'm just cutting these out. You can kind of see my head, but it's fine. And here we go. And the second one. Alright, so now I'm just taking the pins out and separating the fabric from the paper. And once you have your fabric pieces, I just laid mine out in the way I want to sew them together. And yeah, so you can kind of get a vision for your shirt. And now we're going to hem our pieces so they don't unravel or fray. And you're just going to fold your edges down. And I'm going to show you which edges you fold down. But it's really just the ones that aren't going to be sewn together. So this is a part where that's not going to be sewn to anything else. So I'm going to sew it onto itself so it doesn't fray. And so I'm just folding it over like, I don't know, a 1/4 inch and pinning it like that. And then afterward, I'm going to sew it. And I'm hemming anything that is going to, I guess, not be sewn to anything else. Like the sleeves, the edges of the sleeves, and then like the neckline. I haven't done that yet, but yeah. So it is a little bit of a process, but I think it's going to be all worth it in the end. There we go. Now I'm doing the neckline. And you might definitely, you definitely want, if you're young and you don't know how to sew, to avoid lots of frustration, you are going to want to get an adult to help you. Or just someone who knows how to sew, an adult who knows how to sew, maybe your sibling, I don't know. And I'm comparing both of these panels so they're not uneven. So yeah, they're kind of just equal distances or equal lengths. And there you go. And here's kind of what I have hemmed. And then you see you can only see one panel, the back panel, but just do the same thing to the other panel. Just do the same, hem the same parts on both panels. Okay, so now I am sewing over my hems, and I'm taking my pins out as I go. So the sewing machine doesn't yank, or it doesn't get stuck on those pins. Just keep doing them one by one, and I'm going to basically show the whole process. And then here's kind of what the hemming would look like, the finished hemming on one of the pieces. And I apologize because my hand's blocking the camera for a lot of these shots. Okay, so here's what your finished pieces should look like. And as you see, there's the parts that aren't going to be sewn to anything else are hemmed. And you want to lay your pieces the good sides together, so the hems, like the parts that look kind of weird, they're going to be facing out, because you're going to turn this inside out eventually. So now you're just going to sew across the places where I'm pointing. So just the little shoulder bits. Here I'm actually pinning them together before I sew them, just to hold them in place. But after that, I'm just going to sew right across those places. And you can probably do this project just with hand sewing too, but I just like using a sewing machine because it's faster. So as you see, I'm just sewing right across those, and I'm kind of sewing them a few times over. You can see what I did with this one. I went forward and back just to make it really secure so it doesn't come out. Alright, so once you're done with that, then it should look like this. You can kind of unfold it, see how it looks, and see how it's kind of coming together. So now we're going to add the sleeves next, and this is probably the trickiest part of all. And you're going to want to have your hems facing out, so the good sides facing together, because we're going to turn it inside out after we're done sewing. So don't do it like this. Do it like this with the good sides facing together. So do it like that. And now we're going to, this is actually the trickiest part, as I said, but you're going to pin the sleeve to the part where the sleeve should go on the shirt. And you're going to kind of bend it a little bit and kind of just pin it in place. It is going to be a little tricky, but you just align both of the edges if you see what I'm doing. But yeah, and then you pin it like that. It did take me a while, so just take your time and don't worry about going fast or anything, because the slower you do this, the better it will be. Alright, so just like that, and then when you turn it inside out, you'll have the sleeve. So now you're going to sew right across that part. So you will sew the sleeve onto the shirt. And I did mine in 2 goes because it was kind of hard just to bend the fabric. So yeah, you do yours in 2 goes. I would recommend it because it's easier that way. I just did one side of the triangle shaped thing and the other side. So see, I did half first, and now I'm going to go back and do the other half. Here we go, I'm taking the pins out as I go and making sure the fabric stays in place with my fingers. And go ahead and sew away and take your pins out as you go. And that's what the finished sleeve should look like. And it looks nice and clean when you turn it inside out, which is what we're going to do. And do the same thing to your other sleeve. I already did mine. And yeah, that's what it should look like. And now we'll sew the sides of the shirt together. So you're going to fold them inside out like I'm doing here. And then line up the places that you haven't sewn yet, the edge of the sleeve and the side of the shirt, and pin them in place, and we're going to sew right along there. But I'm going to do it with both sides first. So pin both sides of the shirt together. I guess this is the bottom of the sleeve, the bottom edge of the sleeve, and then the side of the shirt. So yeah, just sew across those areas, and you can do it. I think I did mine in 2 goes, but I'm not sure. I might have gone over the same stitching a few times too, just to make sure it was strong. But yeah, so just sew across there, and you can go forward and back a little bit on the beginning and end, just so it's stronger, so that it doesn't like unravel or rip or anything. So yeah, and then what I did, I like rotated it. I stuck my needle in my fabric, and when my needle was still in my fabric, I lifted up the little metal thing, which is called the presser foot, and then rotated the fabric. So here's what it looked like when I was done. As you can see, it looks pretty cool. And now I'm just going to turn it right side out again. So I'm turning it right side out. There we go, and it looks very, very good. And after you're done turning it inside out, then we're going to add some Velcro, or whatever way you want to fasten it at the back. So I'm taking the plastic off of the Velcro, one strip of Velcro, and just sticking it on one side of the shirt, I guess one panel of the shirt. Then I'm taking the other side of the Velcro, sticking it on. So this is going to be so it's lined up nicely. And I'm going to take the plastic off of that, which exposes the adhesive, and put the other side of the other panel of the shirt that I want the other side of the Velcro onto. I'm sticking it onto the Velcro. Like that, I'm just lining it up. There we go, and now I'm going to press it firm. And there you have your secured Velcro, and you could sew this on if you want to, but I would rather glue it because I don't want the stickiness from the Velcro to get on my needle. And now your little shirt is done, so now we can move on to painting the logos onto both of our shirts. And I'm just using an orange shirt for the normal size shirt. I just got it from Michaels. And before you paint it, you want to put several layers of paper inside the shirt, so that way the paint doesn't bleed through onto the other side, because we only want it on the front of the shirt. And make sure it's covering everywhere where you're going to paint. Now put your stencil on top and center it. And just a quick note, I think I put mine up a little too high, so I would probably put mine lower and align the Pegasus with, like, I know this sounds weird, but with like the armpits, like align it with the armpits of the shirt. And I think that would probably be good. So now I'm just taping my design on, or my stencil on, and now I'm going to cut out little bits of tape to go in the holes of like the A and the P and the O and the B and stuff like that. And yeah, this is a little tedious, but taking your time, for I think this is like the third time I mentioned it, but if you take your time, then it should turn out pretty well. So I'm just kind of putting it close to the letter and just kind of cutting out a shape that is close enough to the little hole in the letter. And later on, I actually stuck the tape onto the stencil, over the letter that I was working on, and then with my scissors I kind of just creased or like scratched the little shape into it, so that way I got it close to the real size as possible, and then I cut them out and then stuck them back on again. Just stuck the individual pieces that I cut out on again. So as you see, oh yeah, there we go, I was just sticking it on, kind of scratching it out. My head is completely blocking it, but whatever. Hopefully you get what I mean. But yeah, just try your best, and yeah, I'm sure it'll turn out awesome. Alright, now that I'm done with that, I'm going to start painting. So I'm just using black acrylic paint because I don't really have fabric paint, but I think this will work just fine. And then I'm just kind of starting off really lightly, not with a lot of paint, and trying my best not to push the paint underneath the stencil so it would get out of bounds of the stencil. So I'm just trying to kind of push the stencil down as much as I can while painting it, so there's less of a chance it'll seep under it. And I'm just doing all the words. I'm doing the Pegasus and even the little Long Island sound words. For the doll shirt though, we won't do the Long Island sound words because they're just so tiny. We're just going to draw them on later. So once you're done with that, then we're going to do our doll shirt. So fold a piece of paper in quarters and stick it in the shirt just so the paint doesn't seep through onto the other side. Just like that. And now you're going to do the same thing with your stencil for your doll shirt. And now I'm just being very careful again. Just brushing my paint on really lightly and painting over the stencil. Now, once those are done and dry to the touch, you're gonna take the stencils off, and then also for the big shirt, you're just going to take those little pieces of tape that we put on earlier off as well, and the lines will look really crisp. And I'm not cutting my shirt right now. I'm just using the scissors to help me peel those little bits of tape off, just so you know. But yeah, and my lines turned out really crisp, and I'm really happy with them. Alright, so now our little shirt is dry, and we're just going to peel off the stencil. And with a pencil, I am going to write Long Island Sound, just kind of imitate the real words on the stencil that we didn't actually cut out of the stencil. But after I'm done with that, then I'll go over it with Sharpie so it is permanent. And that is actually the last step. Well, I guess you gotta take the paper out. But yeah, that's the last step of your matching Camp Half-Blood shirts. And here is the final result. I really liked how these turned out. Here is just a closer look at the back and the front of my doll shirt. It's beautiful. And here's my shirt. I think it turned out really well. As I said, the design is a little bit too high up, but I think it's alright. I hope your shirts turned out amazing. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one.